welcome back to the Love Lab. Today in Calabama Cooking, I'm gonna be answering the question y'all have been asking me for weeks now. It feels like weeks. You've been wanting to know how to make those delicious homemade baguettes that have been on my Instagram feed. Well, wait no more. Here we go. I'm gonna show you how to do it. Come on in the kitchen, guys. Let's cook. First of all, guys, making bread is really simple. It takes patience. Okay, that's the number one thing in bread making. First thing we're gonna do is start by proofing our yeast. I'm gonna get this going so then I can tell you about the other ingredients and talk about the process. Here I have 1.5 cups of water. My water is about, this is a thermometer. Right now it's about 112 degrees, 110, something like that. And I'm gonna add to it 2 teaspoons of yeast, okay, dry active yeast. And to that I'm also gonna add, oh, that's the salt. Don't put salt on yeast. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of sugar, and this sugar is gonna feed the yeast. And what we're doing now is making sure, first and foremost, that this yeast is ready for action, okay? Because it needs to be ready. We're not playing around, you know what I'm saying? If it can't go, then we stop, you understand? Okay, this is important. So we put the yeast and the sugar in there so it has a little food to help it wake up. You wanna go between about 105 to 115 degrees on your water. Remember, if the water's too cold, the yeast stays asleep. If the water's too hot, the yeast burns and dies. Okay, you gotta get it just right. Now, once you mix it in this, you're gonna let it sit here for a second, give it about 5 to 7 minutes or so. It's gonna start to get cloudy and foam up, and then you're gonna know it's ready. Now, what I've got over here is some bread flour. We're using 3.5 to 4 cups of flour. Now, if you don't have bread flour, that's okay, use all-purpose. Bread flour has a higher protein content, which means you get a little bit more gluten development and there's more structure to your bread. That's a good thing. But all-purpose is fine too, okay? So don't be like, oh my God, I can't make bread. I don't have bread flour. Boo, you fine. You fine, boo, okay? Get that all-purpose out and do your thing. Okay, all right. All you need to make bread is, ready? Flour, check, salt. I'm adding 2 teaspoons, check, water and yeast. That honestly, guys, is all you really need to make bread. Now, what I've done is I'm using, like I said, bread flour, and I use kosher salt. You either want to use kosher salt or sea salt. I highly recommend that in cooking because the flavor is just stronger and it's more intense and it's gonna really come out in your food. You can use table salt. Well, it's not gonna come out in your food. It's gonna help the flavor come out in your food. You can use table salt, but table salt is just, we've moved past table salt, haven't we, y'all, for seasoning? Have we? But if we haven't, that's okay. That's okay. Have no fear. Just cook, do you, okay? But if you're so inclined, y'all, get some sea salt or some kosher salt. Now I'm gonna just take this same fork and give this a little whisk around just to mix the salt in with the flour. And I'm starting, like I said, with 3.5 cups. The reason I'm starting with 3.5 cups, I may need 4, I've got another 1/2 cup here, is it's gonna depend on the moisture content. If it's really a humid day, you'll probably need a little bit more flour because it's moisture and the flour's gotta soak it up, so it's gonna be more moist and sticky, more tacky. But that's okay, you just have a little extra flour, okay? All right, I'm gonna get ready to put this on the stand mixer. Okay, there. I'm going to use the dough hook. This will knead your bread. You can always knead bread by hand, but come on. We've been blessed with modern technology, y'all. You know, but I've kneaded bread by hand. It's possible. If you have a dough hook, use a dough hook. If you don't have a dough hook, that's okay. Use these babies right here. Okay, see how our yeast is coming along? Let's give this a few more minutes and we will continue. Okay guys, so we've given our yeast some time. Look at this. You see how this is foamy and it's also still warm? This yeast is ready to go, and that's what we want. We're going to mix this, add this mixture into our flour. Okay, we're gonna just dump it all in at once, like so. Make sure we get all the goodness out, okay? And we're gonna start this on a low speed, let it all come together. And then we're gonna let this knead for about 6 to 7 minutes. Now this is important. This is gonna be a tacky dough. It's gonna be sticky. It's not gonna be like when we're making hamburger buns and things like that, or any other, other types of bread where we get a nice smooth ball of pizza dough. This is gonna be sticky and tacky, and that's okay. That's how it should be. Now what I'm preparing here is my bowl to put the dough in once it finishes kneading. I've put a little drop of olive oil in here. vegetable oil in here. I'm not using olive oil because there's a stronger flavor with olive oil, and I don't want my bread to have that flavor. There's other breads I do want to have that flavor, but not this one. So this is just some vegetable oil, or any neutral oil you have is fine. I just put a little drop in there, maybe a teaspoon, and I'm spreading it around because we're gonna have this bread rise. And we don't want it to stick because it's gonna be tacky, but we want to, do what we can to help the cause. All right. So you'll see how our dough is coming together. Let's let it continue doing its thing. Give it about 6 to 7 minutes, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, guys. So our dough has kneaded for about 6 minutes or so here in the machine on the dough hook, and I want you to see how it's sticky and kind of tacky. That's how this dough is. Okay. I'm gonna take it out. There we go. See that? See, it's sticky. You know how the smooth ones we do a lot of times, they're just nice. This isn't gonna start like that. I'm turning this around in the oil so it doesn't stick, okay, once it continues to rise. And what I'm gonna do now is put some plastic wrap over this, and I'm gonna put it in a nice warm spot and let it do its first rise. Now, for me, a nice warm spot, I like to put these in my oven with the temperature off and the light on. I found that just gives me, I don't know, it just makes it work. So this is the first of what will be a few rises. So we'll have to watch. You can bake after one rise, but I highly recommend you let it have a few of them, because every time it rises and every time you turn it and mix it, the flavor is going to intensify. All right, let's put this in to have her first rise. So guys, it's been 45 minutes. Actually, been an hour. The first rise ended up being an hour. But I want you to see our bread dough. I'm gonna remove this carefully because we're gonna put this back on, and we're gonna give this bread another rise, okay? There we go. See that? See how our bread is rising? This is looking good. What we're gonna do is take this bread and put it on here and fold it. Give it a little kneading and put it back. Now we wanna be careful though. We're gonna try not to use any flour, okay? We just wanna have wet hands, okay? Wet hands, a little wetness there. I put just a little, okay? And I'm gonna take this out. It's still very tacky. That's the nature of this dough. Okay, like that. And what I'm gonna do, get your hands just a little wet. See, if you put extra flour in here, what's gonna happen is you're gonna mess up the flavor and the texture of the bread. So we really wanna just let it stay at its hydration point. So we're gonna do kind of a folding type of kneading. See how I'm just folding this bread over? And my hands are just slightly damp, which is why the dough is not sticking. Okay? Just a few times like that. See there? Okay. Back to another ball, just like that. I'm gonna put it back in the same bowl. Yes, you heard it drop. Cover it back up. And we're gonna put it back in the oven for our second rise. Now we're gonna do 2 of these rises. This is gonna be our second 45-minute rise. But I want you to know, you can get away with 1 rise, okay? But the more rises you do, the more intense the flavor will be. Some bakers actually do 4 rises or more on their baguettes. So we're just gonna do 2 because we're not doing French bread, we're doing Alabama bread. I'm kidding. All right, now this is ready. Since we did a little knead on it, we're gonna put this back into our warm spot with no draft, cover it up, and let her go for another 45 minutes. Well, it's been 45 minutes and our bread has done its second rise. And like I said, we're only gonna do 2 rises, but you can do up to 4 or more. The flavor will just intensify. And look at that. See that? Okay, now we're gonna take it out again, but this time we're gonna use a little flour because we're gonna form our loaves, okay? So I'm taking a little bit of flour. This is important. Don't overdo it, okay? Because you really don't wanna mess up this beautiful bread. All right. Here we go. Oh, you can smell it. I wish you guys, I don't know, can you smell it on TV through the screen? I wish you could. Okay, I'm gonna take a little more flour and we're just gonna start to bring it together just a bit, just kind of a folding. See that? Oh yes, this is beautiful. Just a little flour. Now we're gonna cut this in thirds. The best way is to weigh the loaf and divide it by 3 so you get them in even sizes. But I just, y'all love me, right? I I just can't do that. It's too much. Some days I do, but anyway. So here's what I did. I'm rolling this out like this, and we're gonna cut this in thirds. So I'm just gonna lightly score it first, okay? See, just the one in the middle looks a little big right there. Okay, and there. So I'm gonna cut this. I should have got my bench scraper. There we go, it came apart. And this dough is nice and soft and pliable. Okay, now, going to take some flour. And this is a baguette tray, okay? You can get these on Amazon or anywhere. That's where I got mine. But if you don't have it, you can just use a piece of foil and just like push up the sides around it so it holds up as it bakes. But this also just helps it looks like a baguette on the bottom. I know I'm extra. All right, I'm gonna sprinkle flour on the bottom here because this is a very sticky, still sticky dough, okay? Even though it's handling better now, it can stick very easily, okay? There we go. And we're gonna take each of these and form them into our loaves. And we're gonna need some of this extra flour. So first thing I'm gonna do is take a little bit of this flour in my hand. Again, it's more important that your hands be floured, okay? Pat it out. Now, I do this in 2 steps, okay? I just do. First step is flattening it like that. And then I fold it over, and again. And this step, what I'm doing is making sure I've got all the air bubbles out, okay? Or as many as I can. And as you're moving it, you're gonna see bubbles, and you just wanna push them and let them come out. And fold it again. I don't know if you can see the bubbles in the camera, but I can feel some of them popping, okay? That's the gas bubbles formed from the yeast fermentation. Fold and fold. Now, I'm gonna let these rest and start back on this first one. Now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna form this into a loaf. I'm gonna start by rolling it out like this. See how I'm doing that? I'm just using my hands and just rolling out. You really don't need any additional flour at this point either. You see there? And as little bubbles pop up, I just go ahead and knock them out. Okay, get in the middle, roll it out. See that? Now, see how I rolled it out? Now I'm flattening it. See that? And you see how it's springing back? It's springing back because we've got really good gluten development. That's what's making it come back. It's got structure. Okay? Let's see. Now, I turn it over to make sure nothing's sticking. All right? And I'm flattening this out. Now, I'm gonna take this side here, roll it in like this. Take this side, roll it in, and basically I'm gonna roll it like this. See that? Then I'm gonna take the heel of my hand and seal. Okay, so you see that? See how I sealed it? Then I'm going to use my hands to form it. Make sure I use my fingers here, tuck under if I need to seal off those ends. It's a little sticky, just a little. You see how I'm just using a touch of flour on this, guys? That's all you need. Now these loaves are not gonna be the exact same size because I didn't weigh them, okay? And I do that sometimes just to make sure it still holds. And I'm gonna lay it out. So here are now our 3 loaves. Again, they're not gonna all be the same size because I didn't weigh them. This one's obviously bigger, that one's obviously smaller. Then you wanna take the top, sprinkle a little flour on the top, gives it a nice rustic look. We're gonna cover these. Okay, just a little flour on there. We're gonna cover these and let these have about another 20, 30 minutes to rise. Then we're gonna score them and put them in the oven, bake them on 400 degrees. Gently covering is fine. So our bread has had its 20 minutes to do its last little rise. I'm about to turn the oven on. Now I'd like to do this 20-minute rise and then turn the oven on. While your oven is preheating, you want to put a pan in the bottom with some water. And that water that you put in there while it's heating is going to create steam in your oven. And that steam is what's going to make the bread nice and crisp on the outside, okay? So I'm going to put this water in this pan. About a cup of water in a pan. I'm gonna put this on the bottom rack of my oven while my oven preheats, and then I'm gonna put the bread in, okay? Leave the pan in so the steam continues, all right? And we're gonna cook it for about 20 minutes. Now let's score our bread. You want to get a nice sharp knife here if you can. Some people use razors specifically for this purpose. I ain't got there yet, y'all. I should have measured these. I should have weighed them. They'll still come out good. They'll just be different sizes. Oh, look at this. All this naturalness right here. That'll work. Naturalness is gonna be beautiful. And I'm just scoring the tops here. Okay. Here we go. Make sure you got it cut. Oh yeah. Here, oh, I can't wait. If you're like me and you love bread like I do, you are in heaven right now. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the oven preheated, then I'm gonna put the bread in. Again, preheat with the pan of water and leave the pan of water in there when you're cooking the bread. That's gonna give you the steam to get a crisp outside of your loaf. All right, let's keep going. Alas, y'all, our bread is done. Look at these are still hot. This is the big one. Remember I said one's gonna be bigger and those are the two little ones over there. Maddie and I said these are the mama baguette and the baby baguettes. Now, in a perfect world, you really should wait to cut them, but that wouldn't be right for me to not cut it in front of you. I want you to first see though, how beautifully nice and round they are. See that scoring on the top? Look on the bottom, that's the little bit of flour. And the bottom of the pan gave it the little dimples. It's just perfect. Okay, let's cut inside. Again, perfect world, y'all. Wait to cut your bread. But since when has the world been perfect? Look at that. You see that? That is exactly what we want. Oh, and it smells delightful. Now, the longer you let it sit, it's just gonna come together perfectly. I mean, it's already perfect, but let your bread sit, okay? But I'm doing a video, it's hot, and I need to show you the completion. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't, it would be wrong of me to show you this and have you sit through all the rises, all it's crunchy too, crisp on the outside. You hear that? Because we put that steam in there with the pan. I can't let you sit through all that and then not let you, look. I just went in, y'all. If you know what that means, okay. This is amazing. And what I've done with this bread, in addition to just eating it, I've used it for sandwiches. Actually, one time I made steak sandwiches. I took the baguettes, cut them, opened them, and made steak sandwiches out of them. They were off. Oh my God, this is so good. They were unbelievable. All right, guys, you asked, I answered. This is how you make your own baguette at home. Good luck. I hope there's some pictures of this because I'm planning to chow down on Mama Baguette here. Have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time right here in Calabama Cooking. Happy cooking.